Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. It was boots on the ground tonight at the Kaseya Center, which, of course, once again, redefined, always defined as Dwyane Wade's house. It was Dwyane Wade Hall of Fame celebration night for the Miami Heat, which they had D. Wade, who was enshrined in the Hall of Fame, and typically all the jerseys that the Heat have for all the members, once they go in the Hall of Fame, they got a Hall of Fame patch kind of border on all of the jerseys that are up in the rafters, and they do a little bit of an extra celebration. But this was interesting because, going to this tonight, figured D Wade was going to speak. Didn't know, but figured that he was, and was wondering whether or not there was going to be a little something extra. If there was going to be something up the franchise's sleeve for D Wade. It was actually a funny thing because D Wade revealed today at halftime that Bam had been joking with him because, dude, it feels like you've had 4 retirements already. And it's funny because it's like D Wade's last game. I was at that. I've been at, pretty much all these landmark D Wade returns, comebacks, but it never gets old. It's like I was at D Wade's first game as a Chicago Bull coming to Miami, back at his return coming with the Miami Heat, his final game with the Miami Heat where, he has the great game and then tries to jump on the table where Jimmy Butler is there soaking all of this in. Then, of course, his jersey actually gets retired. It's actually crazy because seeing the press release today, it was like, it was 2020. It's been that long. Has it been 4 years since they retired his jersey? But then you think about it, it's like jersey retirement. Then you have the break to get into the Hall of Fame. Now they're celebrating a Hall of Fame. So it feels very, it feels like they've done that, but there actually has been time that has gone by since Dwyane Wade has been, celebrated like this again. And so the Miami Heat were going to do, some D Wade press stuff. And then there was going to be a halftime interview with Jason Jackson. And so Jax has him there, does their little sit down. And then Pat Riley comes out with a bobblehead, and immediately when I saw that, I was like, as soon as I saw the bobblehead in Riley's hand, I was like, statue. He's going to give him the statue. He's going to give him the statue. And sure enough, Pat Riley announces it. You could see, like, it genuinely moved D Wade, Eric Spoelstra. He said afterwards, he got the goosies.
Pat kept that in his pocket. Pat is the godfather for many reasons, and that was, I was standing right next to Karan, and he had the same reaction as me, just goosebumps, and I was like, whoa, I definitely wasn't expecting that. He comes out with a bobblehead. I didn't know where he was going with that. And then, he drops the mic on that one. He shocked all of us. He shocked Dwyane. I love seeing Dwyane have that really sincere, genuine reaction to it, where he was speechless. That was just really cool, and that's why Dwyane is Dwyane, and that's why Pat is Pat, and that's the way it should be. That this is just one night, and then. Yeah, the statue will be there next year. That's going to be really cool.
And of course, goosies were had. Like, this is, it's so obvious and it's so deserved, but like the Heat have never done it before. They've never put a statue out for anybody. And I'm just glad that this is happening. And like, look, the Heat, I'm glad that they have the temperament to kind of space these things out. And because D Wade's greatness is so vast, and like you always want to stop and do all this. And I've always gotten, kind of jealous of the Mavericks with Dirk because, they did the jersey retirement. They did the street sign. They did the statue. And they kind of just did it all bing, bing, bing. But now it's over with them, right? As an aside for D Wade Boulevard, which is technically D Wade Boulevard, if you do put it in Google or Uber, you put in Dwyane Wade Boulevard, and it does take you to Southeast 7th Avenue right by that crosses Biscayne Boulevard. I don't know why there's not a sign up. I asked the mayor about it. I got the runaround. I have not followed up on it because, I'm not in charge of street signs. But this will definitely make me circle back to that to figure out what the hell's going on and why he does not officially have his street sign up. But it was so cool because he is like the face of the franchise so obviously and is so important to everybody on this roster, and from Jimmy Butler to Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love, who are kind of rivals, and Bam, of course, looks at him like a big brother, and Duncan Robinson, had him for a year in his last year, and Jay Rich, that was his rook, and then today, even with Jaime Jaquez, like Jaime Jaquez Jr. talked about this with Eric Spoelstra, and Spo was like, he's like, I watched a lot of film on D-Wade, and he loves these like great. You could notice by his footwork, he loves these great isolation guards, like the guys that he said, Kobe, D-Wade, DeMar DeRozan. These are the guys that Jaime models his game after. And I asked him about it after the game, and he's just like, "This is like one of my favorite players growing up. It's like this is insane." Of course, like. And D Wade, his only point, Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat had asked him afterwards about just his connection to this franchise still and still having an influence. And the first thing that like comes out of his mouth is, first off, Jaime's a baller. And you just got to imagine for a young Jaime Jaquez getting in the league and you're putting on a show in front of D Wade, because the point where D Wade was courtside, like right off the bat, Jaime's cooking, dude. And he had to have loved having the opportunity to do that in front of one of his favorite players.
I mean, what was it like the first time in this building with the D-Wade experience?
I mean, it was great. I wish I could have been out there for the halftime, but I was in the back working on my groin. But I mean, Dwyane Wade getting his statue. I mean, no guy deserves it more than him. Big inspiration to me growing up, even being on the West Coast. He's one of my favorite players of all time, and just to be able to have this moment and get this win for him on this special night means a lot.
He said at halftime he called you a baller. It's just to have somebody like that you did look up to, but already made an impression on him.
I mean, it feels great. He's a guy I want to make proud. This is his organization. This is his team. Is Dade County. So any compliment from him means a lot.
It was really, really cool. Bam, he was asked about it afterwards, and he, of course, had his very Bam response to D Wade getting a statue.
I want one. Duh. Who wouldn't? But it just shows the effect he's had on not only the organization but the community as a whole. They call it Wade County for a reason, and he'll be stamped in this city forever. And he'll be one of those people we'll always talk about as one of the top 3 shooting guards of all time.
But it was so great, man. And the thing that I love about Dwyane, his memories that he's given all of us as fans in this city, and how much joy he has brought this city. He's got such a great pulse of that, and that's the thing that I really have always appreciated about him. And he said something today that was so on point and just had the pulse of everything, of what it means to be, not just a beloved player, but essentially an icon. And he said, like, you can't. He says, I go all these places and I'm famous and I know what that's like, but in Miami it's different because it is Wade County.
It's different. I go all around the world and the love is definitely there. I always tell people I get 99.9% love in real time, and I get about 1% hate on social media, so who cares? But here it's just different. I was talking to Chris Riley. I was talking to Madeline Harrison last night, and we were just talking about, I was born and I was raised in Chicago. But, this is where I grew up, 21 years old until, 37. I grew up here, and so a lot of the fan base, they grew up with me. A lot of the kids were young who is now, a little older, and their parents forced them to watch me and forced me to be their favorite player because I was theirs. So it's great. It's no love like, Miami love. And every time I come back here, I feel that. And so I said upstairs when I was talking to Jack, I'm not the greatest player to ever play the game of basketball, but you can't tell me that and nobody in Miami that when I come here. I feel like the greatest player to ever play the game of basketball when I step into this arena and when I step into this city and this state.
He touches this city in just a different way I'll never forget what it was like the day that he went to the Bulls, and it wasn't like when LeBron left. It was like a funeral. There was a lot of like bitterness when LeBron left, and there were some people that were just gratitude, and then there were some people who were like as more details came out about it. But with D Wade, it just felt like it really felt like a part of the Heat had died, and his return just felt like it was like CPR for the franchise. It reinvigorated it, and since he's been drafted, he's been connected to all of the elite moments. And yes, Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway have their hand in crafting the importance of this franchise and Pat Riley giving it credibility. But when you talk about taking it to the next level, that's Dwyane. That's Dwyane. And even Pat would acknowledge that. It's like Shaq wanted to play with Dwyane. LeBron and Chris Bosh want to play with Dwyane. Jimmy Butler wanted to come here because of Dwyane. It's like, and he was still doing it. Even when he was away, he was telling Jimmy Butler about what this franchise is. And he talked about today, having the just having the responsibility of like not only just being a player, but knowing that people being at Heat games, it's about moments, it's about people, right?
Hopefully, when you think about my career, I think the reception that I get from the fan base is everything. The impact you make on people is everything. To me, that's what legacy is. That sign behind me said legacy when I was sitting on the court. My legacy is now 23,000 plus points and 3 championships. My legacy is people. My legacy is what people are saying about me when I'm not in the room. And so, that's the biggest impact that I've had. Today is a moment where it's all about me, right? We center me. But this is a moment where it's all about everyone else around. And, and like I said out there, it's a moment where I know it's somebody in this arena that got engaged with the Miami Heat being a part of it. I know someone met because they was at a bar celebrating, one of our wins, one of our championships. I know babies was wrapped and born into Miami Heat gear, away jersey, and so forth and so on. And so this entire journey to get to this point is bigger than me. So as we center me, it's about everyone else that's been a part of this journey. So I'm just thankful. And I'm thankful to continue to get the ovation, the love. Like Bam said, you feel like you have 4 retirements. He said, hey, and I said, I'll be back. We got another one coming. So, and that's just nothing but love from the organization, from everybody inside the organization. Being the first to get drafted here to accomplish some of the things in that standpoint, I think that's why I get a little bit more love. But outside of that, it's the impact you have on people. And hopefully I've had a great impact on a lot of people.
I can think of so many moments in my life connected just to this guy's career timeline. And a lot of it has gone in the way of like going from high school to college to, I can remember being, I can remember my wife at the time, my girlfriend, our first summer where we were dating, and she was a waitress at this place in Royal Palm Beach, the Brass Ring Pub. And I remember her, I would work days and then I would drive up to Royal Palm from Deerfield, and I would wait for her to get off her shift. And so I would sit at the bar while she was working, and I was watching D Wade's playoff runs. And I just think of that. And I think about, then getting the chance to really cover D Wade. Like, I didn't cover the championship team. I didn't cover the 06 team. I wasn't in media yet. I was still in college. And getting out of college, I remember getting the chance to cover this guy on a team with Udonis and Michael Beasley and a rookie Mario Chalmers and a rookie Michael Beasley, and my first chance really being in a pro locker room. And the guy was just, he was always very gracious to deal with, but like, this was the guy at the peak of his powers. I was in the building for this is my house, and it was like, this is the coolest professional moment of my life. I don't think anything is going to ever top this. And I'll always remember my first sports love was the Marlins. I loved baseball. That was my favorite sport. This guy took them, and listen, the Marlins had to start a hand in it too, because they just kept ripping your heart out. But D Wade just took that mantle so seamlessly, because how could you not be awed by the guy's greatness every single time? Whether it was, I remember, him versus Danilo Gallinari bloodying his nose, and he just went absolutely nuclear on the New York Knicks. Just killed him. and Eric Spoelstra, cursing in the post game, saying, he goes, "We're in the bonus." This was his game plan. I remember a young Eric Spoelstra saying this because I was covering it for $7.90 the ticket, and I got to go cover these games. And he says, "We're in the bonus. Hand the ball over 3. Get the fuck out of Dwyane's way." And he said that on mic, and I was like, "Oh, that's Goosey's, dude." I mean, I didn't even know what Goosey's were back then, but that was Goosey's. From that to, I remember producing Heat radio broadcasts. I remember my daughter being born during the Big 3. Tommy Ty gave me a D-Wade teddy bear for Sophia, which then went to Tommy. And so probably the craziest D-Wade story that I could tell as far as like a life timeline is it was his final year. It was his final year. And man, the craziest, I had one of the worst days of my life up to that point, and that was my grandfather dying. And my grandfather, for those of you who don't know, is really responsible for my South Florida sports fandom. I mean, a New Yorker who had a furniture business in Deerfield Beach and had dumped all his New York teams and is like, "No, South Florida is my home, and these are the teams I'm going to root for." Dolphins season tickets, Marlins, took me to the inaugural game, took me to Dolphins games, took me to Miami Arena. Remember Vashawn Leonard balling out. I loved Vashawn Leonard. And when he passed, it was like, that's the guy who's kind of responsible for, not only my love of sports, but in a very true way, responsible for what I do for a living and why I wanted to do it and what I wanted to talk about. And then when he was gone, and he lived a great life. It wasn't like I didn't realize it was probably going to happen at some point, but it's still just like, when it's gone, right? And man, not 24 hours after that, D-Wade hits the game winner against the Warriors. I was a wreck. I was a fucking wreck, dude. But it's like what he said, the moments, man. Moments. It's not just about the player. It's like sports brings you back to moments and connects you to people, and will always have you, and will always bring you to that stuff if it's meaningful enough. So that really, really spoke to me when he said that. For him to have that grasp, I think a lot of people could relate to that when he says that, the fan base and the love they have for me, it's just different, because for him to have like that idea, you guys could go out here, we could debate GOATs all the time, LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan. This guy is Miami's Michael Jordan. This guy is the icon. This guy surpassed Dan Marino. He surpassed Don Shula. He surpassed the 72 Dolphins. And he's just kept giving, and like, for this to even happen on the weekend where everybody wants to jump off a bridge because of the Miami Dolphins, here it is once again, just like, hey, to remind you, here's what this franchise does for you when you are hoping like hell that the Dolphins are going to finally turn the corner. They don't. Who's here to catch you in their warm grasp? The Miami Heat. So I'm very happy for D-Wade. Quite obviously, the statue has to look like "This is my house." I mean, there's not, really, it should be first, second, and third place, but I'm tremendously happy for him. There was just a lot of love in the building tonight, and there is something about, I don't know what it is with this Jazz thing, but I think in some ways it's worked out, because I think the Heat sneakily like that he just kind of comes in for his like 2 stints a year, and it almost makes it like, it's, I don't know, like I guess I kind of equate it to like pro wrestling, where like you get to see your favorite wrestler pop for like the 2 biggest pay-per-views of the year, instead of they're there every single Monday Night Raw. Like D-Wade, when he comes there, you're like, all right, it's a little something extra. Like, I hated the idea that he was going to be tied to another franchise, certainly teaming up with Danny Ainge, but in a weird way, it has worked out that like these nights, they mean something. They're special. They're really, really special, and they always, I think, hold a special place, certainly in Eric Spoelstra's heart. And I think the locker room was all there watching his ceremony, and it still means something. And it was really, really cool to see tonight. So congrats to D-Wade. Cannot wait to see that statue at 601 Biscayne Boulevard. It's a long time coming, but it is much deserved.